I came up to New York, came up to Manhattan to experience the Well project.
Everyone wants more wellness in their lives, especially in the post-COVID years. Came together really with this idea of creating a space that brings different aspects of well-being and fitness under one roof. You need also content behind it, right? And that's where we think we really stand apart. If you want more wellness in your life, the ultimate way to do it is to bring it to your home, live in it.
Yeah.
One of the mottos that we use internally is that make everyone's life a little bit better.
This is the Better Decisions podcast, and I am not dressed as I'm normally dressed. I'm not sitting in my office in South Miami. Today, actually, I came up to New York, came up to Manhattan to experience the Well project. And I'm actually up here in the Well right now. And this is different. I know the conversations are about real estate, and it does have that real estate element to it because we are going to look within to the project that the Well is doing down in Miami. Rather than just making it all about real estate, we're going to do it about the psychology of what's behind this. And health and wellness is a big part of my life. It has been for many, many years. I have a sports background. I have a big passion for health and wellness. But now more than ever, we were discussing this a few minutes earlier off camera, now more than ever, as I approach 50, my investments that I make into that wellness and my health are now ever more important because it has a really direct correlation to the smile I have on my face or that I don't. So with that said, thank you for doing this. Please introduce yourself, and then I'm going to start firing questions.
So I'm Zeev Sharon. I'm the Chief Development Officer for The Well. I've been with The Well for about 3 years now. And I joined the three founders, Rebecca, Sarah, and Kane, who started The Well, really kind of won me over with their vision of creating these amazing spaces that integrate wellness and various aspects of wellness under one roof. And that's really what got me excited and kind of was the driving force behind The Well.
What year did it start, and what's like the backstory to the company?
So I think the three founders actually had very different journeys into wellness. They, some of them really grew up with wellness as a big part of their life. Like Rebecca, she really grew up with wellness as part of her family life. She jokes that her mother used to do yoga when she was pregnant with Rebecca. So it was a very integral part of her life. I think Sarah also viewed wellness as a big part, and progressively more over the years. Kane will attest to himself. When he first met Rebecca and Sarah, he was smoking a pack of cigarettes a day and living a very unhealthy lifestyle. And actually the three of them kind of found their way to wellness for different reasons. I think Kane talks about health issues that he had that really kind of pushed him to change his life. And they came together really with this idea of creating a space that brings different aspects of well-being and fitness under one roof. And some of these businesses existed before, but they were very kind of separated. So, in a city like New York, you could get great acupuncture, or you could get a great yoga class, or you could get a great massage, or you could get a great facial, or you can go somewhere for a cold plunge or infrared, but they tend to be in different places.
Yeah.
And in resort setting, that's not the case. So Rebecca tells a story that she used to work actually as a banker at Deutsche Bank for many years, and she traveled to a beautiful kind of wellness retreat in, I believe in Sedona or in Tucson, or I think it's Sedona actually, in Arizona. And she had this wonderful experience. She came back to New York, back to her busy life, back to her stressful job, and all this goodness disappeared within 24 hours.
Yes.
And she was like, why isn't there something like that in New York City that I could go to and stick to my wellness journey, even during my everyday life and the stresses of my job and kids and life, or whatever that may be. So that was where the idea was born of recreating this kind of destination wellness experience. So there are some great examples around the world,
Yeah.
and create that in an urban setting that anyone can join, either as just a guest for a specific service for the day or as a member.
Yeah. Health and wellness, definitely. Like, we're in New York right now, and I walked here with Kirsten, our videographer, And as we're walking along, there's like smells and noises and cars and people like talking and shouting and, you know, car horns going off and things like that. Um, and you're walking along, and I noticed there was like an acupuncture and there was a massage place, and but it's a very fragmented. And from what I can see, and I really appreciate that, and I do see that as well in Miami. Um, there's plentiful supply of gyms you can go to, yoga studios you can go to, healthy places to go and eat. Um, Getting a massage, you can, get your phone and order one and come to the house or the apartment. There are the cryo chambers and places around in Miami now where you can go and, be in that environment. But it is very fragmented. And because of that, the truth is that we lead very busy life. And I like to think I'm probably more invested in that side of me than others. But even though I have that consciousness and awareness of what I should be doing, get a massage, get a sauna, get treatments, repair, recover, because we don't have that get out of jail free card. I'm not Deadpool. I don't heal overnight. I used to think I was like immune from that, but it's just not the case.
You can very much relate.
But now I see that you really have to, and the stress that we have in our life. You mentioned Rebecca being a banker. I mean, that is a high frequency, I say toxic, but stress level wise, highly stressful career path to go down. And there's many stories that we hear about of very high earning, 8-figure earning bankers just having a heart attack and dropping dead in their 40s, or just freaking out completely and getting, very depressed and really not regulating their life with balance. It's extremes, one or the other. You're on vacation and you're extremely relaxed, or you're at work and you're just extremely stressed. Why do we have to live these disjointed, separate lives and compartmentalize them so much? I think what you brought together is this. I actually also read Sarah, who I was going to, we were originally talk to, and we will get around to meeting with her as well. She had a kind of interesting story because she discovered an autoimmune disease.
Right. Yeah, and she also, when she had an autoimmune disease, she went to multiple kind of traditional doctors that sent her to a bunch of different tests, and no one could really diagnose her correctly. She went through a pretty prolonged journey until she found out what exactly her condition was and what kind of lifestyle changes she needed to make to improve the quality of life. And it really has transformed how she lives. So I know she has a whole, that's what I said. All three founders had their kind of personal journey of how they got to wellness, and it's transformed their life. And they're like, okay, how can we build a business around this that really helps a lot of people? So it's very much kind of a mission-driven business that to make one of the kind of mottos that we use internally is that make everyone's life a little bit better. So that's the goal of this. And it's interesting that the Well was started before COVID. So this club in New York opened summer
Yeah, I read about that. That was
2019. So opened great times, end of summer 2019, had maybe 6 months of operations, and then COVID hit. And at the time, if you remember, the last place that people wanted to be at was indoors, in a wellness club, in classes, or in massage, like any enclosed spaces. So the club actually ended up closing for a full 13 months, and then we reopened. But if wellness was important pre-COVID, post-COVID, it's a different world. Everyone wants more wellness in their lives. And if people before who already were doing certain things, now they want to do a lot more. And people who didn't do anything now want to start. And it's very, there are different levels. And I think the club is also designed to cater to people at different levels. I mean, it sounds like you're very focused and have a lot of experience in wellness and fitness. A lot of people don't. So we can cater to a pretty broad spectrum.
Yeah, I like to go down that path, but less about me. I recognize and I realize that even though you have awareness in some aspects of your health, you go to the gym and you eat right, you neglect other sides. And because it is systematic and it's part of a system, and I was fortunate enough to have a call this morning with Rachel, who is one of the health coach, and she asked me, "How are you eating?" And I said, "Okay, so I eat I eat high protein diet, and I eat lots of berries, and I eat raw honey, and I eat a lot of natural fats from avocado. I don't eat processed foods. I don't eat a lot of sugar, if any. I don't eat, overly starchy carbohydrates. I'm very like regimented, which on paper, she goes, well, you're doing everything right. That's great. You seem to be balancing it, and you know what you're supposed to be eating. You have a control of your macros. However, we started to say, well, what about everything around that? It's not just about what you're eating, it's about when you're eating it, and how your state of mind is when you're eating, and how your timing is, and how much time you're spending eating. And that has a large amount to do with it, because systematically we will go in, and if I tell you, all right, so I'm going to chase you, I'm going to get a tiger to chase you, and while it's chasing you, I want you to eat your lunch.
Right.
You're probably not going to digest that food very well.
Yeah.
And I realized that many times, and I say, you know what, I need to stop and take a little time.
Yeah.
Little time to eat properly and digest. And we get into these habits. So there's definitely that aspect to it, but I think we're becoming more aware of it. And COVID, weirdly enough, you mentioned the COVID for me was a weird kind of phenomenon, because when it happened, for about a couple of months, I had this incredible, maybe not cool to say, I had this real calm came over me, because I wasn't working, I wasn't rushed to the office, I didn't feel the obligation that I had to go and uh, make money at that time, because the whole world was shut down. And I would walk through to the park with the kids, and they'd climb the trees, and we would even drive the car, and everything was like stopped.
Yeah, it's almost a scene from a movie.
It was weird. It was like an apocalyptic, like no one left in the world, and it was quiet. And that lasted for a little bit. But then obviously on top of that, as a juxtaposition to that calm, there's the anxiety of, there's a virus out there killing thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people. How are we going to deal with that? So, and then obviously post COVID, there's this awareness where, and again, we've experienced it. We were probably in Miami, the big recipient of this, where people stood up and said, I'm making some really bad life choices. Like, my life choices have been terrible, but I never had time to contemplate them, because I was too busy working and trying to make a living, but I accepted my reality. It was really like the boiling frog story. And a lot of people suddenly got up and said, I just realized I've been boiling myself for way too long, and now I'm going to get out. And we saw a big migration of people down into South Florida because of that. Now, obviously, it's become a different thing where, people say, okay, COVID is something that we have to live with. Like, we've learned to live with other pandemics in the past over hundreds and thousands of years. Moving forward, the motivations by the team to start a company, because it's no small pursuit,
Right.
seem really, really authentic. Like, legitimately, they did this. It wasn't like, I've got an idea to set up a business so I can make some money.
No, it really is. It's so interesting. I always laugh when I see whenever we have a team meeting and seeing the snacks that Rebecca, our CEO, will bring with her. And you see
What is she? What
she
does she eat?
has such a busy schedule, and she's, this is a sizable company with a lot of team members. And so even though she's in wellness, it's not like her job is not stressful, yet she finds time even before a meeting on a very busy day to prepare really thoughtfully prepared food. And she'll always show up. Here's like a little she'll come with a little jar with fruit that she cut and washed, and she'll come with something else that I just made a little like grilled kind of fish that comes with this little salad. So I think I'm giving this as an example, is they really live by what they preach. And
Very mindful
even as a
of what she's
company,
doing.
we have this thing called a wellness check, which I think is an amazing benefit to our team members, that basically almost daily we will get an email that is called wellness checks, and basically tells us what appointments have not been booked at the club that are available. And as team members, we could book them basically at cost. So the practitioners still get compensated, but us as a business, we don't earn anything on it. So it's a great way to also tell our team members, even if you have a busy day, if you need a moment to take care of your own wellness, take an hour break from your work, go down to the club, get a massage, get a facial, get acupuncture, use the cold plunge, whatever is available that day, get a foot massage, get an IV drip, and go back to what you need to do for work, which is an amazing thing. I've been in the hospitality business for 24 years, and I've never worked anywhere that really lived by that.
So it's really practice what you preach, is what you're
Yes.
saying.
Yeah.
So your background, you were in hospitality, and again, hospitality brands. If we look at hospitality brands, I did a study on hospitality brands. They dominate the living space concept. I mean, in Miami, we have lots of hospitality brands that have condos and projects, and it tends to be very dominant. What do you see the difference that you have now experienced, having been with hospitality for so many years, 24 years,
Yeah.
coming across into a new style of concept, which is for a Neanderthal like myself, I go, okay, it's a big spa. Okay, it's
Right.
clearly not, it's something else. What's the big difference you see?
I would say that in today's world, there's a lot of specialization. And just like, if we looked 50 years ago, hotels would also run all the food and beverage within the hotel, right? Restaurants and so on. And over time, hoteliers or hotel companies realize that their specialty is building hotels, running hotels, but great restaurants is sometimes not their specialty. And what they ended up doing is partnering with a lot of great chefs. And that's where you see a hotel where it has like a Jean-Georges restaurant or any other
They
type of
outsource
Yes.
so many aspects of
Exactly.
their
So
operation.
what we're really good at is, in the world of hotels, we call it putting heads in beds. That's what they're really good at. But F&B is sometimes not their strength, and that's why they go to the best in their field.
Yeah.
Wellness is kind of similar to that, right? Until a few years ago, I think a lot of hotels thought they could also do spa, right? And most hotel spas are really very mediocre at best. It's an afterthought. It's kind of a cost of doing business. You need to have it, but they're not heavily used and they're not exceptional. Whereas I think now there's more realization that wellness is a very specific type of business, and you need to be fully committed to it and very specialized and very knowledgeable in it. So we are very differentiated from hotel brands is that this is all we do. Like wellness that we
You can feel that. You can feel it is, honestly, when you walk in, it's a very immersive experience. And I think part of that immersion is the fact that there's no jarring between sections. It's fully integrated because it's designed as one organism, one business organism. And when you'll travel to, nothing against, there are amazing hotels around the world that I love to travel to, and they are fantastic. But when you get into a residence element within, a brand that exists, and we have many in Miami, and I won't even name the names because it's too obvious. But there's definitely a clear sense that there's a separation between segments. And the correlation is such that, I mean, a very crude example, if I go and order room service or if I order food in a particular, a hotel, resort, or a condo even, and they'll have their restaurants, what am I going to be presented with? I don't know, to state the obvious, but a burger,
Yeah.
a club sandwich, a pizza, a pasta, a bunch of salads, and maybe a couple of proteins with something else. And that's pretty much like the go-to formula. There's nothing that's really screams to me, this menu was created for. And if I'm going there to feel healthy and well, I spend a couple of hours, working out or doing some things, then to only go and stick a club sandwich down my face or a burger, doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. And I think that's exactly, you kind of touched on this idea of the integration and how everything is one is really one of the pillars of the Well as a brand. The idea that everything is integrated and everything speaks to each other. So that practitioners from different fields can speak to each other. So when we have a guest that experiencing some kind of issue, we could have multiple disciplines talk about that. And when it comes to food, that's a great example. We have a restaurant here at the Well New York. Our menu is all organic. It's very vegetable forward. We have kind of guiding principles that were established by our chief medical officer, Dr. Frank Libman, on what kind of foods we should be offering. So whenever we update our menu, usually seasonally, basically every 3 months, and the way we build our menu is around those guiding principles. So
And that food is, you've mentioned there's a doctor behind who's looked at this, and there's a farm to table product line of the food that's coming from the source to the plate.
yes,
Because a piece of chicken is not just a piece of chicken, and
there are many
universally,
different types of chicken.
yeah. And I think, we start to look online, and I'm like, well, I thought I was eating a chicken breast.
Yeah.
And then you realize that it's not what you thought it was. The actual protein content in it, or the fat content, is completely different because the way it was handled. Or there are, the pesticides and herbicides and hormones and all these things in the food chain that corrupt what we're eating. So we're essentially ingesting a lot of, engineered food. It's not organic, it's not rich, which is why, when we go on vacation, I tend to, I love, I'm European. So we'll go to Spain or go to Italy or go to France, and I'll go out and we'll have these meals. And I'm like, this tastes amazing.
Yeah, because it's straight from the source. It didn't go through a big supply chain. So that's very important for us for our restaurant. And, it's something that's also very important for us even in our retail stores. So we have a retail store here. We will have a retail store in our location in the Coconut Grove. And we have a whole team that curates what goes into that store. So we have a long list of products that are just forbidden from ever being sold, or ingredients. It's really not just products. It's to the level of an ingredient that will never be sold at our store. So if we're ever offering skincare or a supplement, we literally go through a checklist, and if there's any ingredient in it, it will just never make it to our store. So I think it gives our guests, our customers, our future residents the comfort to know if it's offered here, it's been pre-vetted for me.
Yeah.
And we are a trusted source, that they trust that we have our process in place.
So there's a high level of ethics that go into the operation,
A lot of
making
ethics
sure,
also.
and clearly, it's a ton of effort you can see around, and you can see everyone's very smiley and happy and really believes in the brand. And as a brand, again, we come together, and I'm always looking at brands. I spend my time looking at different brands and what they represent. And sometimes I see brands, and I've written on this, I've written articles and done videos talking about what I call misrepresentation of brands. It's kind of misdirection, the art of misdirection, showing you something and saying, hey, this has something to do with this, and really has nothing. What I'm communicating, what I'm understanding in this conversation, and this is what I think people want to understand as a brand, is what am I buying into? What am I getting involved with? Is this something that I truly align myself and believe? And the mission of these three founders coming together to create something, which is, as you said, even Rebecca on her day-to-day, it's a big operation, it's a big business, it's the stress involved. You've got a lot going on. Why decide then, when you have this beautiful experience, to go down the combined with a condo route? Where did that come from? Why open up that whole can of worms?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I feel like it was a natural progression, because everyone wants more wellness in their lives, especially in the post-COVID years. And it really kind of emerged out of COVID that everyone wanted to experience more wellness. And every person defines that differently, right? Wellness sounds like such a cheesy word sometimes, right? It could be some people.
It's very general. It's very thrown around a lot.
Some people, for them, it's very fitness related. Some people, it's very functional medicine related, diet related, spa related. Like, there are a lot of interpretations, but in general, everyone wants more of the elements that speak to them.
What they need.
Right.
What they need. Not what they want, but what they need.
Yes. Sometimes they don't know necessarily what they need.
Yeah, I say that because there's a lot of stuff that we tend to want, but then we're like, why do I actually want this? It's not actually what I need. And there's a lot of consumerism that exists where we want things, and we say, I want to have this. And then they get it and they're like, I don't even know why I have it. Why I have make any sense.
So I think it was kind of a natural progression of if you want more wellness in your life, the ultimate way to do it is to bring it to your home, live in it, right? And these projects really take combine a lot of different elements. You spoke about how Miami has so many branded residences, and many of them are spectacular. And some of them have also good programming behind them, and many don't. And I think that's where I think we really view ourselves differently, is that you see now a lot of different brands, from anything from like fashion world to cars or to anything in between, now doing branded residences.
Yes.
And how do you translate that product into a residential product? I'm not quite sure. And is it just a design?
I think you've been reading my blogs or something, because it sounds like you're reading my.
What's behind the design?
Yeah.
Whereas for us, it's not just the design. Yes, our buildings are going to be spectacular. They're probably going to be some of the most beautiful buildings in Miami. They're designed by some of the best design team. Everything you smell, touch, feel, hear.
Yeah, the aesthetic is up there with everything.
But you need also content behind it, right? And that's where we think we really stand apart. You're really going to live in a building you will have access to some of the best wellness practitioners in the world, some of the best massage therapists, some of the best estheticians, amazing instructors and coaches for fitness and group classes, amazing like meditation classes. We have a program called Visiting Masters, which is a rotation of masters in various fields that will be in residence for like a few days or one night or a week, and will come to either give a class or a lecture or some kind of exercise or some kind of services. And some of these people have really cult following around the world. So the fact that you get access to that quality.
That's huge. If you're lucky enough to come across someone in your life as a mentor, a teacher, a coach who is able to guide you accordingly, it makes a world of difference. I have someone who, thank you, Waldo, this is for you, who has managed to impact my life as a coach to someone's to educate my wellness and be more cognizant about the longevity of where I'm going to be in 15, 20 years from now. He's my training coach, and he always jokes to me, I'm preparing you for a powerlifting competition when you're 80, so that you can still
I need his number.
move. I'll give it to you. It's amazing how these things that we think we want, but we don't need. We get into that point of realizing that, health before wealth. This is a well-known documented statement, and $1 million never bought 1 second, which is another one of my favorites. These things about spending time wisely. As we get older, a little older than you, a little bit, tiny little bit, but it makes such a difference about what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and who I'm doing it with.
Yes.
Because this community that exists, and I want to kind of get into that because starting to piece this together now. This community that you've built here, like-minded, when you typically have a residence, a property that people will live in, you have all sorts of people.
Right.
You have fit people, you have unfit people, you have have just absolutely all sorts of different mindsets. But once you meet people with a certain awareness of health and that particular mindset, you have just naturally so much more in common. And community and I think condos that do really well and buildings that do well, and I've seen that happen in Miami, they've managed to build a real community. Buildings that don't do well typically are the ones that like lots and lots of rentals with people who have nothing, very transient, they have nothing to do with each other. There's nothing in common. You look at the lobby and it's like The Greatest Showman. It's just a mishmash of people like coming through the door. This seems to be like there's clearly commonality that exists, so that when you're in those common areas, common being the key word here, that it's really getting used, like the space we're in right now.
Absolutely. And I think you touch on a point that is very important to us, is to create also communities, right? And the idea in these buildings is that you will actually, if you wanted to, you could get to know your neighbors, right? And you could,
You probably want to get to know your
yeah, some people, I live in New York City. I live in a building that has probably 300 units. Hardly anyone knows anyone. And it's fine. I love where I live, but there's no sense of community. I think in our buildings, it's going to be a very different approach, because there's such focus on well-being. I think it attracts a certain type of buyer
Yeah.
and someone who has interest in that, who's someone who wants to learn about that. And just us talking now, like I'm learning about some of your practices, and you're definitely more advanced than I am. And it's like, okay, I need to take some like mental notes. But I think people want to learn from each other. People want to talk, and we are also designing our spaces to encourage that. So you commented that this room feels very intimate when we spoke earlier, and yes, we design our spaces to have intimacy, to allow interaction and conversation. Will have in Coconut Grove a beautiful what we call the bathhouse, which is like a collection of thermal experiences. That's where you will have your sauna, your steam room, your cold plunge. There's going to be this beautiful
Yeah.
caldarium, and they're really designed as a place for people to interact. So we're not trying to do kind of your grandma's version of a spa where you just like it's all marble and you just whisper, but actually a place where you can
Yeah.
socialize and you can come and you can actually have an interaction with your friends, significant other, neighbors. Um, and it could be also a social
Yeah.
space. So that's very important.
People hold disciplines much longer when there's a shared experience, typically speaking, and it's, you can see it in team sports, and you can see it when people will train with others and other disciplines. And I know that holding yourself accountable is one thing, but it's like if you have other those like-minded people around you, it's much easier to stay focused. And this is not about, okay, so I'm gonna come to the well, I'm going to join the well because I've got to get myself in the gym and get a discipline training program. It's not about that from what I can do. It's much more of it's about being well.
Yeah, we're not
As
trying,
just
this is not going to be one of those programs where you go and you lock yourself up for a week and you have to just like, eat, grass and work out all day. That's not what this is about. Yeah, yeah. It's giving people access
Yeah.
to incredible programming and facilities with a like-minded community, and to be able to kind of, it's not people who are going to buy in this building are going to have busy lives, right? They're going to have jobs, they're going to have kids, they're going to have, family, whatever it is that keeps you very busy. So it's not like stress is going to go away, but it will give you more tools to de-stress and have these breaks. And that will be integrated not only just into the public spaces, but also into the condo units. So they're designed with that in mind.
Let's touch on some of these tools, because within the building itself, within the condo residence, I know there's discussions about the water and the quality of just the general number of elements to make sure that people are well as they can be. There is obviously, we just took a tour through property here in New York, and I'm going to go, and I'm really looking forward to it because this is all bust from here down. So I'm going to kind of experience the treatments. These tools that people have, because I know sometimes people throw around, and again, we see it a lot in certain buildings where people will say, we offer this, and we offer this, and we offer this, and we offer this, and it just doesn't get used. Obviously, here you've got a group of people with a very different mindset. But it's curated in such a way to encourage the use of it. But these treatments now, and I think for many people, getting up and being healthy transcends so much more than all I get at the gym 4 or 5 times a week. Great. But what else are you doing for yourself, for your mind as well? And there's a lot of these elements to it that I think are really key, because we're having a discussion earlier off camera. I come home at the end of the day. I've been to the gym in the morning. I've done my hour. I've done my mobility. I've come home. I've eaten right. I've had the protein shake. But come at the end of the day at 5 o'clock, I'm absolutely fried. I'm just being really honest.
Yeah.
Absolutely fried. And I'm thinking to myself, I need to do something for me, but I just don't know what to do. I don't have anything around me at my home, because at my home I have things, but it's just not readily available for me to then go and give myself a little bit of treatment. It's just, I could go out and find a spa somewhere, but it just seems like a big pain in the ass to go and do that.
Yeah.
These things that can be used to help calm ourselves and take some of that stress out. What do we have here that
So, for the case in Coconut Grove, we're very much well into design in the design process. So there's still some things that haven't been finalized and we're evaluating. But in general, I would put them into 3 different categories. You have One category is just infrastructure, the quality of the air, the water, the lighting, those things that you really don't need to do anything. They're just part of the building infrastructure, but to make sure that whatever is put there is there to encourage your well-being and support that well-being. So that's an infrastructure piece.
Yeah.
The second is really kind of an amenities piece. And what I mean by that is what kind of amenities and facilities exist in the building, so in the wellness club, in the rooftop, which is going to be
That's
spectacular.
amazing. We were talking on that earlier on. I mean, 40,000 square feet.
Yeah,
of
40,000 square feet,
amenities.
because it's a pretty large parcel of land. So the building is spread over a, a, a big amount of land. So it has this giant rooftop that will have two pools. One is for residents only, and the other one will be available also to club members. It will have a pickleball court. It will have an outdoor kind of yoga pavilion. It will have a wellness lounge space. It will have a kind of cafe slash bar type of food and beverage outlet that would offer like snacks and drinks. So it really will be a special place. But then amenities, there will also be certain amenities that are in the unit. And that's what still we're evaluating a bunch of different options, but it will be kind of a package of things that you wouldn't typically find in a even a very high-end condo. So we try to make our bathrooms feel very spa-like. So very kind of, we think a lot about what even type of shower head are we going to choose. We probably speak about that more than most other developers, because we want to make sure that you have a specific like bathing experience and everything around that. So there's going to be a lot of really nice touches. And I think that's something interesting about wellness, is that sometimes it's in the little things. For example, when I started working here, I remember the first month there was some kind of like team member sale of where they were finishing a they were turning the inventory at the shop, and I somehow came home with like 30 new candles that we just started using. And from that point on, every time it was a specific scent similar to this, and every time we entered the apartment, it smelled so good, and everyone that enters like, oh my God, your place smells like a spa. And even that little thing made my life a little bit better.
Yeah, our senses are sometimes stimulated, or our central nervous system is brought down from higher stress levels with input that we're not even aware of. I wasn't even aware of. Subtly, I started to pay attention as we walk through different spaces here. There's a smell. There's even like, we're sitting here in this room and there's music very softly playing in the background. But then when you go down into the spa, there's a different kind of music that's playing, and there's a different smell. And it just very, very clearly designed to, and you feel it when you walk through the front door here, start to regulate your nervous system. And it sounds like, as actually Rachel was saying to me this morning, I know some of this stuff can sound very woohoo. Like very like, okay, it's non-tangible. It's all kind of like airy fairy up in the ether. But the design that goes behind this is something that is going to be continued through into the project.
Absolutely.
And something that will systematically curate so well together that from the moment that you come home,
Yeah, and some of it will be very, some of it will be very noticeable. Some of it doesn't really register, but over time, you just feel it. So, the third kind of, we talk about the two groups of like the infrastructure, the amenities. The third one is really this programming that will make everything so available. So when you say, oh, I come home at 5 p.m. and I'm fried, and yes, I could find a spa or I could find something, but it requires effort. Here, everything will be in the building. So it's right there. And as a member, as a resident, you're automatically a member of the club. So
well, this is like, New York's very busy. There's a lot of traffic. And Miami is getting busier and busier and busier. And if anyone's, I have two kids, and I the times like, okay, we get home, all right, one's got soccer practice and one's got like violin lessons, and then I've got to get across town because I've got a meeting, and time becomes this window, and you're like, all right, so I've got an hour and 20 minutes free
myself.
before dinner, before I'm going to have dinner with the family, or I've got other things to go on. But that's not enough time, because in practice, an hour and 20 minutes, I've got enough time. No, I don't, because now I've got to drive 15, 20 minutes somewhere. Then I have to park. Then I have to walk into the building. Then I have to check in, then I've got to figure stuff out, then I've got an hour, then I've got to get back again.
Yeah.
I don't have an hour.
Change, yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's 2 hours at least.
But it's also stressful, right? You just created new stress for yourself because you got to rush into that hour and 20 minutes. And when
If I've got to deal with another stuff, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if you really wanted to, you could just put on your robe and go down like that if you really wanted to.
Probably,
Yeah, it does make life a lot easier.
It really does. So the experience moving forward is going to be a big element. I could talk for ages on this, and we will have follow-up conversations. I hope that those watching this podcast, and this is just a little snippet, because we're going to explore this more and more and more as I'm involved in the project, and I chose to be involved in the project, really honestly, mainly because it's a very important aspect of my life. And I've now at a stage realized that my priorities for me to have my best life, I need to make sure that my priorities are in check. And that means making sure that I'm spending time doing the things that I truly not just want to do, but that I need to do, that are good for me, that will give me the quality of life, so I can be present, so that every minute of the day when I am, doing what I'm doing, it's the best version of me.
Yeah.
So that I'm alert, I'm aware, I'm present, I'm involved with it, and it doesn't become just another job, another chore, like, okay, tick the box, I've done it. And it just becomes just natural, just organic. So thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for coming.
I'm now looking forward to experiencing this, which we'll show in some of the B-roll. For more information, as always, give me a call, shoot me an email, see my information below. Stay tuned for another episode of the Better Decisions podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.